Hey, welcome to Electrovox First. So we're going to be doing this one as an audio, as the band aren't in makeup, but that's absolutely fine. We completely understand. So thank you very much, guys, for joining me. So we have CJ, Johan, and Jazz from Ashbury Heights. So thank you very much for joining us.
Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Hey, so have you guys ever been to Electroworks before?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you played a show a while ago.
Yeah, a while ago, a long time ago, in the before the ice melted. I think it might have been 2008.
Oh, okay.
Before the permafrost was a thing.
Yeah, yes.
Was that just the once you played? Is this your second time back, or have you been a few more times?
This would be our third, right?
I think it's our third because I think we were here in 2007 as well.
And 8. Yeah, 7 and 8.
7 and 8, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any favourite Electroworks memories at all?
Oh, they're hazy. There was a lot of alcohol. I'm sorry.
They are the best kind of memories here at Slimelight. So yeah, being the 35th birthday of Slimelight, as well as being 0 Day Festival, when it comes to events like these and nightclubs like these, how important do you think they are to the scene?
Extremely.
I don't think you can overstate the importance of places like these for the scene.
Yeah, but honestly, what these guys said, this is where both the bands and the people get to see and meet each other. So it's the heart of the scene.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like a breeding ground for good ideas. You have promoters, photographers, interviewers, musicians, visitors, everything. I mean, this is where we come to do our stuff. So.
Yeah, so yeah, because you guys have played quite a few places around the world, but it's kind of under threat in the UK, all of our venues. So I don't know if you felt that way across the sort of wider world.
Everywhere.
Yeah, it's especially like, I mean, it was already on a decline, but then with the pandemic, I mean, now it's really, I think in Sweden we had, it was never like the scene was always really small in Sweden, but nowadays it's like there's
it's non-existent.
There's a few like bastions like Slimelight in Sweden too, but it's really it's kind of a dire situation.
I mean, you see even the metal clubs, the tinier metal clubs being threatened. So people end up having events instead, like renting spaces for events, but having standing clubs, like active club nights and stuff. That's not as common as it used to be.
I mean, that's completely unthinkable, really, because that's metal country.
Yeah, it's a music country in general.
And speaking of things on the decline, there's been 2 cases where you guys have had to cancel this year, which is a first for you guys, isn't it?
Yeah, two
back to back.
Yeah, actually, I said it was like it was an increase in 200% since ever, but that was wrong, wasn't it?
Yeah, your math is quite off.
Yes, so
much worse.
Please educate me.
Oh no, that would take far too long. I would need a blackboard and
tweed.
Things would get unpleasant.
And a monocle.
But it is an exponential increase.
But that was just down to flights, wasn't it, that you had those problems, or?
Yeah, basically. First, it was a pilot strike that struck us like the day before. We were packing everything, getting ready to
leave.
Get into our car, and we heard Lufthansa was having a pilot strike and has cancelled every single flight.
And the problem is the only airline trafficking the airspace to Leipzig.
Leipzig.
Yeah, Leipzig. It is Lufthansa. Oh. So it wouldn't have been possible for us to either drive, go by boat, train, nothing. We would not have made it in time.
And we tried to make it work with the arranger for some other day, but it wasn't enough time.
There wasn't, like, they couldn't reschedule us. So we were prepared to like drive down, do the. It's quite a drive.
It
is. It's quite a drive. It's something like it's
16 plus hours. It's a
long
drive.
I think we checked it out. It was like 16 or 17 hours.
Yeah.
One way.
We would have been willing to do that if they could have rescheduled us to another day, but it wasn't to be.
No, it wasn't us. It wasn't only us affected by it.
They did reschedule some, and obviously that probably made the whole thing a bit back heavy. So
and then the other cancellation, we just had a big fuck ton of a mess of a luck. The tickets were a problem back then too. So.
Well, I mean, it's the case worldwide, isn't it? There's lots of things being cancelled because strikes, pandemic, obviously, but yeah. declines all round, unfortunately. So I'm really glad you guys were able to make it today.
Yeah, we too.
Whenever I've asked friends sort of what are you most, or who are you most looking forward to see, you guys are always the first one that they've mentioned.
Aww.
So, I mean, you guys have probably been asked this 100 times, but your most famous song, Phantasmagoria, where did that come from, and where was the inspiration for that? Because it's just so different in the synth-pop industrial world.
The
that
whole
it just-
album is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that is like it's also quite a different song in our catalog.
Yeah, it really stands out compared to
Yeah, we
everything
really
else.
like on that particular album. We did a lot of experimentation with like new ways of writing lyrics. So, and we were really into like I'm like an art historian, and Taya, who was doing vocals back then, she's like a literary major, and we were looking like we were writing lyrics based on like literary concepts, and like we were like deep into like the idea of taking inspiration from literature and stuff like that. And we had this like that whole album is a lot of like old, especially old British literature, but it's like taking concept out of old Gothic literature and like writing lyrics based on our like recontextualization of those texts. So it's like really like highbrow stuff.
I was gonna say word poopy.
Yeah. We it's like so Phantasmagoria is like this. I mean, it's obvious. It's like it's based in, obviously based in Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven. No, we were reading a lot of Edgar Allan Poe, and we were just.
I'd say there's a mixture of things. There's
Yeah,
a bit of Raven in there too,
there's a bit of Raven
definitely.
in there too. It's like we were reading a lot of Poe. Like we had like an Edgar Allan Poe collection, and we had like sticky notes and stuff. And we tried to we did a lot of the like the classic David Bowie cut up technique.
Also Martin Gore.
And Burroughs.
Yeah.
I think Burroughs started it, and big Burroughs fan here, and we would take like we would take stuff that would caught our fancy in Poe, and then we would like throw it around and like write lyrics based on that.
Yeah, I mean, to take sort of quite, I mean, everyone loves Poe, but to take sort of what others would consider dreary literature and turn it into such an incredible upbeat song, it's quite the talent you guys have got there. And it makes most sense actually, because the friends most excited to see you all have like English major degrees and stuff. So
Oh,
that
no
makes
pressure
sense.
then, thank you.
They will be here.
Yeah, that's great. I'm gonna smile stupidly and say, oh.
And speaking of songs, so this year you've been releasing the Ghost House sessions, which, as far as I was aware, is something you guys haven't really been able to fit into other releases previously. Is that
Exactly.
right?
Yeah, no, it's the way that we've done albums ever since the beginning has always been like do like a ton of instrumental tracks. And then like when we have like enough of them, usually when we have too many of them, like maybe 30, 40 of them, we boil that down to like 15, and those are the ones that we start like looking at writing lyrics for them and looking at turning them into fully fledged songs. And then
You cut again.
you cut again,
Yeah.
usually, and usually you go from like 30, 40 to maybe 20, and then you go down to like 12 at the end.
It's like taking pasta, throwing on the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah.
In terms of, we like this sounds good together, but oftentimes there's a certain amount of tracks that doesn't fit in
Yeah.
anywhere.
And then it all like usually like I never throw away stuff because you might come back to it later, and that stuff would just be thrown into a folder on my computer, and that folder was called the Ghost House Sessions. It's like basically this is stuff that
We don't know what to do
Yeah,
with.
doesn't have a home and doesn't have like really have an identity yet. It's not really songs. It's more like loose concepts
From previous times.
which hasn't been given form yet. And when we I felt like there was a lot of stuff there that was interesting when we started looking at it, like in 2019, I think we started looking at that again, and it was like, I don't want to throw any of this away. Like some of this is really good. I would like to finish at least some of these things, and it felt like we need to finish these old ghosts need to be like exercised before we can actually properly look at writing new material again. And
I look at it like a funeral pyre, to be honest, because Anders approached me with this idea. I knew there was a backlog. There's always been a backlog. But then after I left the band, I wasn't that involved after Take Care Paramore because I helped with the production on that album. But then I left, did my own thing. Anders approached me again when Thea left. And he's like, I have a bunch of old songs. I'm like, yeah, you do have a bunch of old songs. And so we put everything together, tried to work through it, even though there was a pandemic, so we couldn't even be in the same room, in the same studio. We have to send things back and forth, and it was super messy. But now that we're done with it, and I'm back, and we're just like getting all this out of here, we can just restart, just start fresh, do something completely different. That feels amazing.
Okay. And I mean, it's been since 2018 when you released Victorian Wallflowers, wasn't it? So,
was that 2018?
I think it was 18.
I hope it was 18 because that would mean that it's only 4 years ago, and like I dearly promised myself and everyone else that it shouldn't take more than 5 years between albums.
Okay, so we can expect a new one in the next year.
I mean, it's basically basically it's been done for a while. It's just not like I'm kind of a perfectionist when it comes to mixing. And it's been gestating for a while. It's not quite done, but it's.
You also got a new studio computer that's way more.
Yeah, we hit a snag.
We outgrew ourselves.
Yeah, we hit a snag like in early 2022 because the last songs that we were doing, like including the last single, Is That Your Uniform, our old studio setup actually ran out of steam. It was like it wasn't powerful enough to handle what we wanted to do. So it's like I want more channels, I want more stuff. This stuff needs to be bigger. And I couldn't. It was impossible to mix the song on the old setup. The computer would just like croak. So we had to get a new one. And then there's this like world shortage of half liters. What do you call them in English?
There's just components, conductors.
Semiconductors, yeah. So it was actually like the waiting times for new MacBooks. We use Mac Pro computers, and the waiting time was actually huge.
Insane.
So I think we lost like 3 months trying to get ourselves a upgrade.
But then there's also just the logistics around this album. We have collaborators. I work in a studio and he works in a different studio. We have to make everything work on a distant kind of relationship on this album. And we released videos for every track, so there's a lot of jobs for everything.
Changing direction slightly. So I'm just trying to think
Veering.
Yeah, there's a couple of different directions I could go in, just trying to work out what makes sense.
Try everyone, see what we end up.
So when it comes to making music, or even just being part of the musical world, is there an underrated person or group or artist, whatever you think's underrated, that you feel deserves a shout out?
The answer quite obviously is always yes.
There's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's always someone.
I think Augur is underrated.
Yeah, we can agree on that. Augur deserves more love.
Augur is amazing.
Yes, we do see Kyle and quite a lot around here.
Yeah, I mean,
He's a nice guy.
Yeah, he exactly. He's also not only are they making.
He's a good boy.
They're making good songs, but also yes, they're lovely people, and they deserve some more love.
Okay, wonderful. And what moment in your past did you decide this was the music for me? When it comes to the industrial world.
Oh yeah, we had this. Like I'm not sure what is, the music for us, like
No.
we oscillate a lot between like I mean, we oscillate a lot between synth pop and like there's some body thrown in there sometimes. Like
And just straight up
certainly
pop
in our
too.
last track, there's a lot of body thrown in, and there's a lot of like 80s classic goth influences as well. There's certainly some like hints of Sisters of Mercy in Phantasmagoria, for example.
But then sometimes
but
it's
also-
just straight up pop.
Yeah, and also like The Cure and stuff like that. But there's also like there's an industrial vibe. Like we are very much like musical magpies in that sense. We just if we find it like nice and shiny, we will steal it.
We're gonna
and
snatch
we will,
it and do something
we
with
will
it.
use it for our own nefarious purposes.
I don't know when the moment hit us. I honestly have no idea. I think when we first started out, I didn't know Anders at all in person. I was friends with, what do you say, other people who knew him. And so he just approached me and said, "You want to write a synth album with me?" I'm like, "Why? I'm not a musician." And he's like, "Well, you're the only person in this town that knows this music." I'm like, "Okay." And so we did some stuff in the studio. And I think I felt the vibe immediately, like this could really be something. No matter if it's successful or not, depending on what your measure of success is, of course, but I thought it sounded like something that was missing. Tooting my own horn a bit, but I seriously thought it fills this kind of gap that I had never been able to fill with some other music or artists in the genre back then.
Yeah, I mean, it comes across with your music as well, because, you know, you can throw the words like synth pop around a lot, but it still doesn't quite pinpoint what
Exactly,
you guys are.
it's not
which is
really there.
wonderful. So,
And it's like we're really excited about getting started on new material now because
It's itching.
like there's so much wonderful music like being released in recent years. There's so many new favorites. Like every time I hear music, I don't listen a lot to music like for fun because it makes me, when I hear music that inspires me, I want to make my own.
Exactly.
So I have like these huge catalogs like on my phone where it's like ideas, like where I hear something that like, that is amazing, that gives me ideas. I put it in there.
Yeah.
And that list is like hundreds of tracks long by now because I've been gathering new ideas and concepts for like years, and there's so much things we want to do. We also want to move ahead in terms of theatrics and like
we have so
pantomime.
many ideas. We can't go into them now because we're going to be here all night.
it's okay. How about you, John? You have anything to say towards sort of when you discovered this music and when you thought it was for you?
I've been playing in several bands with Anders before this, and I was sort of recruited on a whim, I think.
Yeah, we needed you.
Yeah, we needed you. Yeah.
So I was recruited as a live member a couple of years after they played there. So this is my first time being at this venue. But I mean, I think
Starting off, he's a metalhead.
I am absolutely a metalhead, but I am
You
also
can tell by the
I'm also very very much a jack of all genres. I like a lot of music, and I'm inspired. As Anders said, there's so much music, and pretty much everything can be inspiring. Oh my god, I'm really gonna take this call.
Sorry, he has a really important call he has to take.
He has important
But
job
I
interviews.
can speak for him and say that Johan is a multifaceted musician. He's a guitar god. He's really, really competent. He knows exactly what's needed. He's a quite balancing force between me and Anders. We're best friends since thousands of years, of course, but we're both very strong personalities. And he's like the perfect middle ground. He's the glue to the whole thing when we're out and playing.
One of the reasons that he started, like he became more of an active member in the band, was because I needed like a 80s style, really crazy guitar solo, and he was the right type of person to provide that. And then he just like it's fun. I mean, I think that's kind of a sign of like most artists. A lot of electronic artists, when they get older, they start incorporating more acoustic elements in their music. Like it's very much like true about a lot of bands that I grew up with, and we kind of do that too occasionally. It's fun to add a guitar here and there. So
and Johan is already very well versed in adding guitars to electronic music because he wrote all the guitars when I released my own album way back. We're not going to talk about that, but he had to learn how to fit. When I say I want to write metal pop, he's like, "Are you kidding me? There's no such thing." But we did, and he had to figure out a way to make super rough and bad guitars sound well with sleek synthesizers. He's really good at it, so it's natural. He falls naturally into this environment.
All saying nice things about you.
Oh, is everyone saying nice things about me? Then I really shouldn't interrupt. My point was just that I don't have a genre. I like pretty much all music, and I've been friends with Anders for a long time. And Anders is an amazing musician in so many ways and so many genres. So
I would say 25 years. It's 25 years.
Yeah, you guys are old.
oh my god, yeah.
I admit to this.
Okay, last two questions then. So, is there anything that you would like to achieve with your music?
Eternal life, maybe.
Well, I mean, I think I've already achieved more with it than I ever thought. Like, when you start out, you usually think of achieving something with your music. You start back then, like when we started out back in the mid-noughties, we thought like, okay, achieve that is like we want to sell a bunch of records, play a lot of big stages, like the usual stuff, and then when you work when you do the work for like a decade or so, and you start seeing your music actually affecting some people, like personally affecting them in positive ways, affecting them emotionally. You have like,
oh yeah, you should see the dance floor here when your music comes on.
And I mean that's like when that happens, when you start like meeting people who actually like they tattooed your
Oh god, that was insane.
to names on their arm, or like people who genuinely like burst out like crying when you do gigs and you play their favorite song. You start like, that's so much more powerful than selling another 10,000, 20,000 records. And like right now I think we're really happy being able to continue
doing this at all.
Continue like giving people something positive. Like Ashbury Heights has always been about sharing, like maybe slightly oversharing, like bad times and like awkward times and stories of sadness, and sharing them with people and like inviting them, like here's like a musical space where we talk about this slightly awkward things. Maybe you've been through the same thing, and maybe we can talk about this together. Maybe we can
unite.
Maybe there's some catharsis to be had by like being together in this for a while. And so our songs are confessional in a way, and I'm really, if we can continue doing that, like I'm really happy that we can continue like meeting people where they are at their most vulnerable, and providing some sort of like some sort of support, some sort of affirmation. That's really, it's a powerful thing, and it's lovely to hear that you're having a positive impact on any human's life is like a really powerful thing. So I'm really happy if we can continue doing that going forward.
Wonderful.
I'm just going to add the egotistical part and say that when you're a musician, you're not a musician sometimes, or at certain points of the day, you're always a musician, you're always an artist. And being able to continue being an artist in releasing and meeting people and performing live, that in itself is like worth all the trouble. And landing in that realization is really what makes it successful for me. Like just being in it, doing it. That's that's everything I want to do.
Just living.
Yeah.
Right, and lastly, I think you guys pretty much already answered it there, but do you have anything you'd like to say to your fans?
Thank you.
Ashbury Heights ASMR.
No, but really, it's just amazing to have people being around for this long, and also all the new people showing up. We see, I mean, we see the statistics of gender and age and country and everything, thanks to social media and modern tools. But it's just great to know that people are still welcoming us and continue to hold us dear and come out to see us and support us and the clubs and everything. So it's just a big, huge, heartfelt thank you. That's everything you can say, really.
Agreed. Well, thank you, and we love you all.
Yes, obviously.
Obviously.
Thank you very much to both of you. And
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening.